I love that I can talk about Jesus, we can learn about Jesus together, and we have the specific skills to kind of live our faith. And so how do we do that daily with each other? And so that's been, with my past work experience, I didn't really have that freedom to be able to know and build hope and resilience. Like, hey, we all are children of God and we are able to move through life together and kind of help them on their journey has been so amazing for me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brighter Together podcast. My name is Janet Courtney, and my guest today is Rachel Galanis. And Rachel is the Resource Center Director at St. John's Lutheran School in Lannon, Wisconsin. Rachel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about being able to be on this episode with you.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about St. John's Lutheran School and your role there.
So I started at St. John's Lannon about 4 years ago. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I have about almost 20 years experience working in the juvenile justice system. But I was good friends with our principal at the time. My 4 kids all went through this school. It's preschool through 8th grade. And we were having a discussion about 5 years ago about the importance of starting some girls' circle with some of the middle school girls, where they had an opportunity to talk about friendships, conflict resolution strategies. And so we decided that I would work very part-time coming in to run some of these girls' circles. And then it kind of really ran from there. We realized the need that was there to kind of work with these kids for behavioral, mental health concerns. And so we were really fortunate to get a Wisconsin EANS grant, which is Emergency Assistance for Non-Public Schools during COVID.
Oh, okay.
And so they were able to pay for me to be there 30 hours a week for the past 2 years. And so from there, we really created this position because it has never existed before in our Lutheran Synod schools to have somebody in staff that is licensed to really focus on the emotional and mental health with our students. And so we were just so excited to be able to not only use my kind of counseling background and using our faith-based approach with these students to kind of integrate all of it together, academic, emotional, spiritual, to really build resiliency with our students. And so I can't say this enough. It is legitimately the best job ever. And I know that we are kind of in this silo of being new and how do we let people know that this is a need for our other kind of parochial schools in our area.
Yeah, because parochial schools in general, and please don't hear I'm bashing anybody. So if you're at a parochial school, I love what you're doing. I just love schools in general. Anybody that's willing to take on the challenge of teaching children, it's whether you believe it or not, I'm a Christian, it's a God-given task. It really is. And we are all servants at heart, whether you profess that Jesus is Lord or not, it's still a service that we provide. You love on kids. That's what you do, right?
Exactly.
And it makes me emotional. Look at me. I'm all emotional. But I love I love the fact that educators, there's so many people that have, that fight this fight every single day. That's why Brighter Together exists. And I talk about this all the time on this podcast. People are fighting the fight for these kids in a nation and a time that is tough. It's a tough time to be an educator in the United States, and we get bashed around a lot. So, talking about the amazing things does make me emotional because it's every single school. It's the urban schools, it's the suburban schools, it's the parochial schools, it's the schools where every single kid is, free and appropriate, free lunch. It doesn't matter. Or every single kid, the parking lot's full of BMWs. It doesn't matter. That social emotional piece that you're talking about transcends all of that.
Yes.
All of it.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I feel like you cannot succeed no matter where you are if you don't feel safety, emotional safety, if you don't feel connected to people. And so this is what I love about our school, is that we are really big on how do we create this family culture when they're here with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that you have this grant and are pushing for others to do it is so great. I think that's so. So what kinds of things do you do now? Like you started out with the kids, but what kinds of programs are you running right now?
So I am the first to say that I'm newer into a school setting. And so I'm always open to learning and growing and figuring out what was already established there before I got there that's working and what can I add to it. And so they already had some really great ideas of every Friday. At the end of the day, they pick a character theme for the month. And so it could be communication, listening, building resiliency. And we come together as a whole school family and we do a Bible lesson and an activity to really integrate what we are teaching them. And so that is something that we continue to do weekly. We are a smaller school. It's preschool through 8th grade. K through 8th grade, there's about 120 students. And so it starts right away in the morning. We can greet everybody by their first name. We can greet parents by their first name. Every Friday, we're playing K-Love out in the parking lot as they walk in. We do Mindfulness Mondays. So I go into the classrooms for all students 4th through 8th grade and teach them a new mindfulness strategy of the week. It is part of the curriculum that all 4th through 8th graders, the girls do a girls circle biweekly, and then the boys do a boys council biweekly where we talk about friendships, we talk about conflict resolution strategies, problem solving skills. I also now started to go into the preschool through 2nd grade, and we're using that second step curriculum to really teach the social emotional. And so it's been really great that teachers, principals, parents are really on board with adding this extra dynamic of the social emotional learning that we know is really benefiting the students.
Awesome. That is really great. And do you have crisis at all? Do you have to deal with kids in crisis? Have you had that experience?
Yes, absolutely. And so I'm definitely there as a support for any behavioral issues, any concerns that parents are really comfortable reaching out to me. Even our own principal has shared it can be really helpful that they know that if kids are having or in crisis, having some concerns that they usually go to me first and talk about it. And in collaboration with the principal, we kind of talk about next steps. But he's even shared, he's like, it's been really helpful when we think about that piece of it to kind of work in collaboration together.
Yeah. It's great that they feel like they have a safe person that they can go to and talk about things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. And having the programs that you have, it gives them that, they can see that, they see that opportunity to be able to.
Yeah. And I'm always trying to, being a parent of a student at that school too, I'm trying to be very conscious about how do I make sure I'm also communicating with parents about what's happening in the school. And so we have a school newsletter that goes out weekly. And so I try to write, a little blurb in the newsletter too about common language that we're using here at school. Any themes that I'm seeing coming up with students, I'll try to write a little bit about that. When we're thinking about when kids are talking about feelings, what does that look like? We've had some kind of community traumas that have happened where we were at within our school district. And so, writing articles about how to talk to that with our students and kids. And so we really not only create the school family within the school building, but also with our church members, with our parents. We really, really try to partner with everyone.
So you've developed a culture of support within your district for across the board, it sounds like, right?
Yes, we are trying. I feel like I'm one of the, I don't want to say challenges, but areas of growth of like, sometimes I feel like I'm alone in that, where there isn't somebody in my position in another school to kind of bounce ideas off of. And so sometimes And maybe that's my own insecurities of like, am I doing the best for these kids, or what else can I be doing that I'm missing? And so there's always kind of, I'm always trying to grow and learn and improve.
Well, and I think when you're a trailblazer, because that's really what you're doing, you're blazing a trail that is desperately needed, and it's lonely at the top sometimes. So congratulations, you're doing a great job. Well, I mean, and you and I as Christians can turn and always turn to God and say, Lord, this is hard. This is hard. What I'm doing is hard.
Yeah,
it's not, and He is so supportive. So
yeah, I love that I can talk about Jesus. We can learn about Jesus together, and we have the specific skills to kind of live our faith. And so how do we do that daily with each other? And so that's been, with my past work experience, I didn't really have that freedom to be able to know and build hope and resilience. Like, hey, we all are children of God, and we are able to move through life together and kind of help them on their journey has been so amazing for me.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. It's definitely, it definitely gives you comfort when you know that you have, a creator who loves you, for sure. I turn to God all the time. And I think sometimes when you own a secular company like I do, people are surprised, when I'm so open about my faith and who I am, and the fact that we care about all people. And you don't have to be a Christian to be loved. You don't have to be a Christian to work here. You don't have to. Everybody's a sinner. We all are. We all have the choices that we've made, and it's not my job to judge anybody. If you're qualified and you can do this job, or if you're a school and you want a quality company, come to us. We will. You know what I mean? But I think it's one of those things that it just kind of like sometimes people go, oh, well, good for you. It's like that's what I see is like, well, good for you. So it's to have that culture of and talk about culture of support. It's something that a buzz term we use at Lighthouse as well is, that culture of support and being a family and knowing that, everybody here cares. Everybody here cares about the kids and about our staff. We want not just the people that are, like we're a family company too. So the Courtneys are all over this company, but having people that I've never actually met, in person, be somebody that I truly care about and that they know that they can talk to me it's a blessing. And I'm sure the kids feel that about what's going on there. It's the same kind of thing. I'm making assumptions, but it feels like that anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's been amazing. And so yeah, I've been really fortunate that I've been able to help these students kind of learn and practice the values that they're being taught. And I think about, we recently had a group on forgiveness. And so we talk about how important that is in the Bible to forgive. And yet sometimes some of these younger students don't know how to do that. Like, what does that mean? And so like the specific communication skills they can use to say they forgive somebody, to forgive themselves, like what. And so this is what's been really great is that we have the buy-in that I know is some of the challenges at other schools is we have the buy-in of the need for this, to teach them, again, those relationship skills and learn how to practice that and hone that in so that when they move on to high school and wherever they've got this foundation of what that looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna switch just a tiny bit. So how much are you seeing, we still live, whether you're a Christian or not, you still live in a world where social media and all of that is there, and phones and AI and all of those things. How much of that are you seeing is a part of what's affecting the students that you're working with?
It's interesting because we are a smaller school, and I don't want to say that like this is across the board, but thankfully most of our kids aren't getting phones till 7th, 8th grade.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I think it's because we are such a family culture that parents are kind of communicating with each other about what does this look like for us? What does this look like for our kids and our friends? And I'm not trying to be naive about it, that I know that plays a role into it, but I'm not seeing it. The access isn't as much, I should say, than maybe we might see at a bigger school. With that being said, we still have guest speakers coming in, talking to the students about social media, and we definitely integrate those conversations into our groups. I always think about, this is a really common theme that I see, is even just texting and communicating that way is, we don't really read it the way that it's being intended.
So yeah, the tone is not.
The tone is never what you think.
Yeah, you totally lose the tone. As a speech therapist, boy, I totally. You can take a message and you can interpret it. You know, if it's a 5-word sentence, you put the emphasis on each one of those words and it totally changes the meaning of that message. So,
and I'm also very open with them. I said, we're all sinners. And I am the first to admit, I probably read it in the worst possible way. And I don't know, that's just kind of how it is. And so, so a lot of that kind of definitely comes up. Social media, we definitely are being preventative about it when we have, our guest speaker, our youth pastor will talk to the kids about the importance of that. The church does a great job too, where they will have parent conversations and have parents come in and do different lectures or seminars on all sorts of different topics. And I know social media is one of them.
Yeah, because it's pervasive, and they're so. I was out with my daughter yesterday, and she had brought her tablet because she was maybe going to read. I was doing a pedicure. We do all of our billing and payroll ourselves, it's mostly her and I and my husband. And so we were like, we're going to take a break and have a girls' night, the two of us. So we went and had pedicures, and then we went to the Cheesecake Factory, which I love cheesecake.
Oh, same.
Oh, so good. So good. For those of you that don't have Cheesecake Factories in your world, I'm sorry. Right? My girlfriend, my best friend in the world, would always make me a cheesecake for my birthday. Like, instead of a birthday cake, she always made me cheesecake. So, and then I went and moved 2,000 miles away from her, and I don't get my cheesecake for my birthday from her anyway. She'd make me one if I was there, but and we're still really close. And as a matter of fact, she works for me now. But it's just one of those things where it's like, but the point I was trying to make before I got so focused on cheesecake was, I was sitting there. And a little girl in a booth across. Now, I am. They had tablets or phones or whatever, and this little girl, and she was probably 3 or 4, and so little, and I just, it broke my heart that they were using that, and I get it. It's a way to keep them quiet in a restaurant and stuff, but I worry about the screen time so much. And then she also had a binky in her mouth, a pacifier in her mouth. And I'm going, oh my gosh, that's so bad for your mouth when you're a child, if that's sucking. And as a speech therapist, I was like, all kinds of, oh my God. And you just have to shut your mouth because, first of all, I'm passing judgment and I shouldn't be. Shame on me. But also I was just going, oh goodness, that child, I would, and it's not how I would raise my child. So, it's just, but I have knowledge that mom probably doesn't have. And I just kind of like, it just made me, and I couldn't see, there was another child there. I couldn't see, but it just concerned me for them, because that's our society. That's, parents are using those tools that have been thrust in front of them as a way to help raise their children, and not always for the better, and that more than anything, that was my concern for this family.
Yeah. Well, I know, even talking with our preschool teacher, she's, been a preschool teacher for years and years and years. And she has mentioned that the younger parents, or the kids coming in now, are way more restricted with electronics than they were even a couple of years ago. And so that's kind of a cool trend to see, that they're realizing that, okay, we can't just rely on this for entertainment, for everything.
Yeah. My daughter will tell you, we always called it screen time. My kids are 27, 26, and 22 as of this recording on June 5th, 2025. I always give the time because it's all the date because it's always, a month or two before the podcast comes out. So I always try to make sure people know like this, it's the end of the school year right now. And we're going to be talking, this podcast is going to come out and it's going to be, we're heading towards the beginning of the next school year, right?
Yeah.
But we always talked about screen time and wasn't screen time for us was on your computer or on having the TV on, it wasn't even, that was before they had phones. And as a speech therapist, I literacy is so important. And I struggled as a young person to learn how to read. I had a great teacher in third grade and who I went through summer school, because I was not a proficient reader as a young child. And so as an adult, I was like, when my kids get, when I start having kids of my own and I'm a speech therapist, I want to make sure my kids can read. Mm-hmm. And my daughter didn't like to read. And so we had a rule in our house for every half an hour of screen time. She had to give me an hour. I was really strict. An hour of silent reading or reading with me. And, it took us a solid year to get her to where she was. It's funny because she's as stubborn as I am. I would catch her reading, and it was just like, Carissa, are you reading on your own? And she's like, no, Mom, I'm not. No, I'm not. It became kind of a funny game, but my kids are all excellent readers because I insisted that they have that time, that silent reading time. And we read books to them until they were high school. I think, we read The Hobbit and we read Watership Down and Tolkien and the, there was series. I can't even think of all the series that we read, but we read so many books together. And just, the kids loved it. And it wasn't because they couldn't read. They just loved that time with their mom and the story and getting engrossed in the story. And inevitably we'd get to the end of a chapter and it was bedtime and it was a cliffhanger, one more chapter, Mom. One more chapter.
I love it.
Yeah. So I love the fact that all that to say, I'm happy to hear that people are really paying attention to how much time their kids are spending on their phones. And
it's definitely conscious on parents' minds of what and when is a good time to kind of introduce that and all sorts of stuff. So we've been fortunate that way.
So what would you say, since you've started this program, is one of your biggest wins?
Oh, I think getting the buy-in from faculty, from parents, from our church members that are part of our school family, that's been amazing. We've also I've been conscious about trying to give back to the community in a way. This was 3 years ago, we created a hotline. And so it kind of went off of this thing that we saw. I saw somewhere where you call a hotline, it was a bunch of kindergartners, like just sharing different things. And so we had different numbers. If you wanted to just hear children laughing, if you wanted to hear kids singing Jesus Loves You, if you wanted to hear comforting Bible passages, if you're feeling sad or if you're feeling scared. And so it was really cool for these kids to be able to give that out and we could share that with our community. We also just finished creating a book that we now have in our church library. And the kids were given a different emotion and they were asked to describe how does that feel in their body or how do they know they're feeling this emotion? What are some coping strategies that they have? And then everyone picked a comforting Bible passage that fit with their emotion. And so it's a way for us to just give back and let them know how we are integrating this program into their academic, into their spiritual growth. And so I personally, I've loved that. I loved that we've been able to do that and kind of give back.
That's really, really neat. And so you have it in like a hard, there's so many neat ways that you can publish books now. It's really cool.
So it's this hard copy. They were assigned a partner and they had to write a page and then illustrate a page with it. And so it turned out really, really great. I loved it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Rachel, this has been an amazing conversation. I knew it would be from the beginning. And I'm so impressed with what you guys have done. That's so great. So where would people go if they wanted to learn more about St. John's Lutheran School and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, they can on our website. It's stjohnslannon.org.
And Lannon is Lannon, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Only because when she was telling me Lannon at the beginning, I spelled it wrong. I want to make sure we get it right. Yeah, so that's, and again, it's, audio and stuff. So we want to make sure that people have that. And who knows, I always say God is going to take Brighter Together and do what he's going to do with it. So I always want people to have the information. So
love it.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, this has been so great. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing. It's so fantastic. And thank you for being on the Brighter Together podcast because, we really are brighter together.
I love it. Thanks again for having me.